Number 10. Oprah Winfrey. Who would have guessed that the woman famous for handing out cars on her talk show was being cancelled by the entire world? Well, that happened when Oprah made a career-ending mistake when herself and Dwayne Johnson broke the one rule of being rich: don't ask poor people for their money. A few weeks ago, Oprah and The Rock announced that they would be starting a relief fund for the victims of the Maui wildfires. The People's Fund of Maui was given a solid $10 million to get off the ground. $10 million that was donated by Oprah and Dwayne combined. So why is it just Oprah that's getting so much hate? Well, it's cause she has a net worth of almost $3 billion. That's billion with a B. And the world is collectively furious at Oprah for having the audacity to ask working class citizens for charity when most people can barely afford to put food on their table or even pay their bills. The Rock and Oprah donated $5 million each to give the fund a head start. Well, guess what? $5 million to Oprah is like $500 to us. Oh, and not to mention, it was taxed money, so it wasn't actually her money, it was just money she had lying around that she was like, yeah, that'll go good there. Oprah addressed all the hate online, telling the Daily Mail that she was just disappointed in the world's reaction. Rather than focusing on the good things and the people of Maui, the world was mad that she asked them to give her any money whatsoever. Oprah hasn't confirmed if she'll be donating any more to this fund or not, but so far, it's not looking like she's dropping a penny. Number 9. Russell Brand. This man has slowly been exposing himself to the public over the years. His chaotic energy has just gotten worse and worse as time's gone on. Now, this man has gone down in history as being one of the worst video music award hosts ever, but he's now going down in history for being just an absolute monster. 4 women have come forward alleging that Russell mistreated them verbally and physically between the years of 2006 and 2014, arguably the height of his career. Brand strongly denies the allegations, and in a video that he himself posted, he claimed that while he was promiscuous, all relationships were consensual. One of the women who came forward claimed that Russell started a relationship with her in 2006 while she was still in school and he was 30, which, apparently they met when Russell bumped into her at a shopping center and he just started like critiquing her purchases. Great way to get the ladies. According to the women, the relationship was meant to be anonymous, with Russell even asking her to lie to her parents and writing a script for her to keep things smooth. Another woman alleged similar behavior, but added that he had a massive temper, becoming very physical with her a few times. More women have been speaking out about their situations with Brand, all of which are eerily similar and show that he has a pattern of mistreatment. He will probably deny the allegations until the day he's gone, but the news has left his career up in smoke. Number 8. James Franco. James placed himself in a little bubble of public exile for using his powers for evil. The man behind some iconic characters like Tommy Wiseau or Harry Osborn in Spider-Man, and so many more, he seemed to be on the way to a long, successful career following multiple collaborations with Seth Rogen, as well as his turn in more serious roles like True Story alongside Jonah Hill. Apparently though, James has a problem keeping his hands to himself, especially when it comes to his acting students. In 2018, 5 female students at a Studio 4 acting school in North Hollywood told the Los Angeles Times that Franco had used his position to exploit them physically. 2 of those women sued, and Franco was forced to settle outside of court and fork over $2.23 million. At the time, he was writing, acting, and directing a show for HBO called The Deuce, which they said that he was allowed to stay on and finish because it was getting cancelled behind his back anyway. Not only did fans call for the cancellation of that series, but the public outcry forced Seth Rogen to drop his longtime pal, telling the Times of London that the scandal had changed their relationship and they had no plans on collaborating anytime in the near future. There's a simple lesson there, folks. If you don't want to cancel yourself, don't be a terrible person. Number 7. Megan Fox. Megan has been featured in several films over the years, but it was an interview about her time working with Michael Bay on Transformers that really set her career on the wrong path. The original live-action Transformers movie came out in 2007, and it co-starred Megan and Shia LaBeouf in the leading roles. It was a fun movie on screen, but behind the scenes there was a ton of tension. According to Megan, who had previously worked with Michael on Bad Boys 2, working with Michael Bay was like working for Schmittler. You know, the guy who used to run Germany back in the day? Fun fact, if you add sh to someone's name, you can say it on the internet. Loopholes rock. Of course, Michael didn't appreciate being compared to one of the worst men in human history, so many speculated that her being left out of the 3rd, 4th, 5th, however many movies there are, had something to do with the behind-the-scenes drama. She went on to call him bland and claimed that he had no personality or social skills of any kind, which is just rude. When the comments were made public, her career began to slowly suffer. Not only was she written out of the Transformers series, but she was forced to make a public apology and retract the statements following the massive slew of backlash. She took a few years off, but Michael himself later acknowledged there was a misstep on Megan's part, and not only accepted the retraction, but they were able to patch things up and work together on the live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Nice! Number 6. Jonah Hill. Unfortunately, it would appear that the once funny man turned Oscar nominee is actually a pretty rude dude. A little while back, a news article broke that his ex-girlfriend Sarah Bradley was showing evidence of Jonah being emotionally damaging towards her during their relationship. The couple first got together in 2021, meeting on the beach as she was a surf instructor. Now, according to a series of texts between Sarah and Jonah, it's pretty obvious that he's being very mentally manipulative and just kind of telling her what to do. He tells Sarah to remove any photos of her surfing from Instagram that showed her bum bum, and when she did that, he told her that it was a good start, but that she didn't really seem to get his point. He went on a bit of a tyrant after that, telling them that it wasn't his place to teach her anything, or that he made his boundaries clear, but at the end of the day, he just sounds like a jerk through the entire thing. In another screenshot that she showed people, Jonah laid out his plans and simple conditions for maintaining their relationship, including stating that he didn't want Sarah surfing with men, which was a big part of her job. He wrote a massive list of boundaries and rules that were clearly him trying to control everything that she was doing, and at one point literally said that she can't post pictures of herself in a bathing suit. So Jonah is slowly being blacklisted across the board, with little to no work coming his way anytime soon. Number 5. Jim Carrey. Jim is known for his hilarious personality on and off screen, but he gave Kat Sadler from E! News and the Daily Pop an awkward interview on the red carpet at Harper's Bazaar party in 2017 that really showed him in a different light. The interaction started with Jim slowly circling Kat as she attempts to express her confusion and excitement that Jim Carrey was at a Fashion Week event. Was this man known for being an incredible artist, bringing his talents to the fashion world? Nah, he was just in a mood. By 2017, Jim made a name for himself as a weird and serious man who tended to venture into the realm of energies and universal concepts whenever he got into deep conversations. He started the conversation with, "This is meaningless," and then continued to say that he wanted to find the most meaningless thing he could attend that night, and that this event was it. A celebration of icons and celebrities that Jim apparently did not agree with, as he didn't agree with the concept of icons and celebrities. He continues to give a small speech about not believing people are actually real and that we're all just a field of energy, and peace lies beyond personality, man. The entire time this interview is taking place, Kat is just super uncomfortable and counting down the moment that Jim says something funny or even remotely related to fashion, but instead he just shares his thoughts, tells her that she has a nice fragrance, and walks away. While Jim's career had already started to slow down at that point, this clip became viral and studios were wondering if he was going to be a good fit for any of their roles. A lot of scripts with his name on them were either rewritten or just simply kept to themselves, right up till 2020 when he made a little comeback in the surprisingly fun Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Number 4. Chrissy Teigen. Chrissy canceled herself by being the meanest, bobiniest woman on the internet. In May of 2021, an individual by the name of Courtney Stodden, a pageant model and media personality, claimed that fellow model, media star Chrissy Teigen, had publicly bullied them online for years. Chrissy was accused of regularly tweeting that she wished Courtney would take a permanent dirt nap, or just straight up end herself. Not necessarily in that format. Apparently Chrissy harbored some kind of jealousy towards Courtney's success and decided to take it online instead of, not publicizing her problems. Chrissy quickly apologized for the tweets and DMs, which were sent as recently as 2019. In one of her last posts, she tweeted, "I'm sad and mortified at who I'm used to be. I was an insincere attention-seeking troll. I'm ashamed and completely embarrassed at my behavior, but that's nothing compared to how I made Courtney feel." Chrissy then decided to delete her social media, following a lot of backlash for her actions, eventually leading to her being fired or leaving any job that she had both on and off the screen. Next time, just keep your jealousy balled up deep inside like the rest of us, or write it down, maybe you'd still have a career. Number 3. Katherine Heigl. Kathy was riding high back in 2007. The former Grey's Anatomy star not only won an Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a Dramatic Series, but she also began transitioning to the big screen, with the success of her first featured comedy, Knocked Up, alongside legendary comedian Seth Rogen. Unfortunately, her rise to the top quickly became a free fall into a volcano, boom, following an ill-fated Vanity Fair interview the following January. In the interview, Katherine made a move that still has people scratching their heads to this day. She openly bashed the film that made her famous, claiming that it made women look shrew, humorless, and uptight, while also placing blame on Seth Rogen for writing the men as lovable, goofy characters. The film still still sits at like 89% on Rotten Tomatoes because while she can say everything she wants, it was a good movie. It was funny, it had a good love story, there were some nice jokes, the cast was great, and honestly, she was wrong. Seth felt betrayed by the comments as they never had a fight on set, and it never seemed like she was uncomfortable at any point. These comments, combined with some negativity towards her Grey's Anatomy writers, caused agents to drop her as a client, and her time in Hollywood quickly came to a screeching halt. Number 2. Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen had one of the most successful daytime talk shows of all time until 2020, when her show became overwhelmed with accusations of toxic work environment. Former employees were claiming that Ellen's happy exterior was nothing more than a facade that she put in place to keep her audience on her team. A little bit of proof came when she accused 50 Shades of Grey actress Dakota Johnson of not inviting her to a birthday party, and Dakota actually reminded her that she did send her an invite and that she got a resounding no from Ellen's producers. Fans started questioning this awkward moment between them, and the cracks in her appearance grew bigger and bigger. Eventually, an article was released containing testimonies from a lot of former employees, with so many of them that there was no way that this was a lie. Ellen canceled herself by denying every single thing that she was being accused of, instead of just acknowledging her faults and missteps as a boss. And instead, Ellen's fans took to Twitter demanding that she respond to the article and claims that she was a short-tempered tyrant. She didn't respond with a public apology, instead she just canceled herself and her show, and has been on a hiatus ever since, which is, I don't care, more time for Drew Barrymore's show, bring that back. Number 1. Kanye West. Kanye was slowly going mad in the eyes of the public way back in 2010. As the years went by, he made more and more appearances on TV, but it wasn't until 2018 where his political beliefs got him heated on Jimmy Kimmel Live. When Jimmy asked Kanye how he felt about the response to his decree that he was all for president at the time, Donald Trump, it was largely criticized. He defended his statements by claiming that he didn't have to conform to some united mindset and that he was just upset at all the backlash, but part of him was kind of enjoying it at the same time. He then suggested the world was in a simulation, claiming that it was filled with unpaid actors. The over 20-minute interview was just full of metaphors, the concept of love, and a comparison to himself and the Son of God. This interview was only a short time after his anti-Semitic tweets were circulating online. Ye even made a joke about the anxiety of asking his publicist to go onto the show. He was fairly calm in his delivery of his opinions, but he made sure they were known.
At number 10, Russell Brand. This man has been slowly exposing himself to the public over the years as his chaotic energy has just gotten worse and worse. Brand has previously gone down in history as being the worst host of the Video Music Awards ever, but now he's going down in history for being an absolutely terrible human being. 4 women have come forward alleging that Brand mistreated them verbally and physically between the years of 2006 and 2014, arguably the height of his career. He strongly denies the allegations, and in a video that he posted himself, the actor claimed that while he was promiscuous, all relationships were consensual. One woman claimed that Russell had started a relationship with her in 2006 while she was still in high school and he was 30. Apparently, they met when Brand bumped into her at the mall. According to the woman, the relationship was meant to be anonymous, with Russell asking her to straight up lie to her parents. He even wrote her a script to keep things smooth. Another woman alleged similar behavior in 2007, but added that he had a massive temper, becoming physical with her a few times. Several more women have spoken about their situations with Brand, all of which were eerily similar and show that he is a pattern of mistreatment. At number 9, Jonah Hill. Unfortunately, it would appear that the once funny man turned Oscar nominee is really a jerk. Recently, a news article broke of his ex-girlfriend, Sarah Bradley, revealing evidence that Hill was emotionally damaging towards her during their relationship. The couple first got together in 2021, meeting on the beach as she was a surf instructor. According to a series of texts between Sarah and Jonah, it's obvious that he is manipulative. He told Sarah to remove any photos of her in a bathing suit, which was a lot of them due to her being a surf instructor. When she did that, he told her it was a good start, but she didn't seem to get his point. He then told her, "It's not my place to teach you. I've made my boundaries clear. You refuse to let go of some of them, and you've made that clear, and I hope it makes you happy." People felt that his boundaries were closer to ridiculous demands, and in another screenshot, Hill explained his conditions for maintaining their relationship, including stating that he didn't want Sarah surfing with men, aka her job. He wrote a massive list of boundaries and rules that were just clearly him trying to control everything Sarah did. At number 8, Oprah Winfrey. Who would have guessed that the woman once famous for handing out cars on her talk show is being canceled by the world? Why? Well, Oprah made a career-ending mistake when herself and Dwayne Johnson broke the one rule of being a billionaire, don't ask poor people for money. Last week, Winfrey and The Rock announced that they would be starting a relief fund for the victims of Maui wildfires. The People's Fund of Maui was given a solid $10 million to get off the ground, $10 million donated by Winfrey and Johnson combined. So why is it just Oprah getting so much hate online? Well, it's because she has a net worth of roughly $2.8 billion, billion with a B. The internet is collectively furious at Oprah for having the audacity to ask working class citizens for charity when most people can barely afford to put food on their table. The Rock and Oprah donated $5 million each to give the fund a head start, except $5 million to Oprah is like $500 to us. Oprah ended up addressing all the hate online, telling the Daily Mail that she was disappointed in the reaction from the world rather than focus on the good things and the people of Maui. The world was mad that she asked them to give a nickel. Oprah has yet to confirm if she will be donating any more to the fund, but so far it's not looking very promising. At number 7, Drew Barrymore. The actress and now talk show host made headlines last week when she announced when her very popular show, The Drew Barrymore Show, would return to air despite there being a massive writer's strike in Hollywood at the moment that a majority of celebs have shown their support towards. The Charlie's Angels star claimed that the move was not intended to make light of the current situation, but rather as a way to create a safe environment to discuss the difficult topics. She posted a video to Instagram apologizing for all the pain the decision had clearly caused people. The writers who worked on her show before the strike were literally standing outside of CBS studios with picket signs. The internet called her a number of different insults and asked that she be fired from the show altogether. Well, apparently Drew heard everyone's cries and decided to keep the show off air for now. While she made the right move in the end, it may be too little too late. At number 6, Danny Masterson. The actor, best known for his role on the sitcom That 70s Show, has been convicted on serious charges of misconduct. 3 women came forward detailing a time when Masterson aggressively took advantage of them. 3 separate incidents took place between 2001 and 2003, but a verdict was not reached until just this year. The first round of investigations actually took place while he was still on That 70s Show, but at the time there wasn't enough physical evidence to take things very far. In 2017, the investigation was reopened and it was reported that he once again being investigated. The women spoke about Masterson's misdeeds and they were eventually able to scrape together enough evidence for a conviction. Another woman came forward in 2017, rounding it up to 4 accusers. It was revealed throughout the proceedings that Netflix had actually tried to dispute the claims of these women as a way to maintain their working relationship with Masterson. Eventually, he was fired from the ranch and, well, everything with his name attached to it. The actor defended himself tooth and nail right up until the final verdict. In the last year, former co-stars like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis wrote character statements supporting Danny and literally claiming that he was a role model. At number 5, Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada was well known for a long time, mostly as Will Smith's wife, but also for her occasional acting roles. These days, she's known as a disgruntled talk show host. For a few years, Pinkett Smith hosted a talk show online called Red Table Talk, where she would invite guests to come on so they could discuss various topics, from upcoming projects to the man she was dating while her and Will were on not so good terms. The show was known for getting a little too deep into Jada's personal life, often making the viewers and her guests very uncomfortable, revealing details that nobody asked for. The company she worked for eventually decided to shut down their streaming and her show would suffer. The show may have also been canceled due in part to her husband smacking Chris Rock in the face. At number 4, Colleen Ballinger. Former YouTuber and current demon, Colleen Ballinger has recently been outed as having inappropriate relationships with her young fans. Luckily, nothing went as far as becoming physical, but her involvement in various group chats with fans half her age was extremely inappropriate. Ballinger is best known for her character Miranda Sings, who became so popular on YouTube that she received her own Netflix series. If you haven't seen that, too late, it's been removed now. She was basically messaging her fans to deliver so-called advice when she was really just trying to manipulate them into being her unpaid employees and sending them to bat for her during any kind of drama. Following the backlash, Colleen decided to post an apology online. The only thing was, she did it while playing a ukulele. In response to the cringiest apology of all time, her former fans decided to cancel her for good by reminding the world of a number of inappropriate bits, sketches, and jokes she probably shouldn't have done and certainly should not have been available to children to watch. At number 3, Katy Perry. Recently, Katy Perry took to social media to announce that she wants to quit being a judge on American Idol after 6 years over a fear that she's being made to look like a bad guy by the producers. For those who don't know, Perry had an interesting reaction to a contestant revealing she was a mother of 3 and being much older than she looked. In response, Perry stood up out of her chair and almost laid on the judge's table. The contestant, Sarah Beth, then sarcastically said that if Katie laid on the table, she would die, and Katie responded with, "Honey, you've been laying on the table too much," in reference to her having multiple kids at a young age. At first, everyone laughed and this all seemed in good fun, but following her audition, Sarah announced she would be going back to California to be with her family, claiming she just wasn't cut out for show business. She later took to TikTok to call Perry out for the joke, which was shaming her in a number of different ways. Katie has been defending herself since the video, claiming it was not meant to be harmful, but she's made similar comments and jokes to many contestants over the years. At number 2, Justin Roiland. The creator of the adult cartoon comedy series Rick and Morty was on a hot streak at the start of 2023. Rick and Morty had been just renewed for another season. His first-person adventure comedy High on Life was becoming one of the most played games across the country, and oh, then he got arrested for being a jerk. Turns out that this man who made the world laugh was also a man who made women cry. It was revealed that he would be facing 2 separate criminal charges in Orange County, stemming from a domestic incident that took place in 2020 with the woman he was dating at the time. While he denied the allegations at first, several other women came forward to share their stories of mistreatment from Justin, who had apparently been sending them horrific DMs online that varied from pretty tame to the creepiest stuff you've ever heard. Roiland was stripped of his contract with Disney and Hulu, who'd been distributing his series on its streaming services and were funding his most recent projects. Roiland was also replaced on both Solar Opposites and Rick and Morty, with the current news being Dan Stevens is taking his place. And at number 1, Donald Trump. In 2006, Donald Trump was known as a wealthy real estate mogul with a hit reality series called The Apprentice. He was recently married to Melania with a 4-month-old baby. However, reports leaked that Trump was actually in the midst of an affair with adult film star Stormy Daniels after she filed a civil suit claiming the contract he made her sign to keep quiet was invalid. Daniels claimed that herself and Trump shared an intimate relationship for roughly a year during his marriage to Melania. These aren't the first allegations of an affair, as Trump has been back and forth in the media since the 70s, being accused by 26 women of mistreatment or misconduct. While these rumors have never held any merit at first, the truth was finally set free. After being the most chaotic president in recent history, it was announced in March that Trump was arrested on 34 separate violations of a New York law against falsifying business documents to conceal another crime. Over the years, he was essentially taking company money and using it to pay off anyone who may have been a threat to him, both personally and politically.
Number 10, lying about her partying. Soon after news of their divorce went viral, photos and videos came out showing Sophie downing shots in the UK while Joe was away on tour and presumably looking after their kids. That seems to be the main story that's going around. The idea that Sophie is a big no-no juice indulger and essentially left their family for long periods of time without a care in the world for Joe or their daughters. But some people are now saying that Joe is doing everything in his power to try and destroy her reputation and paint her as a bad mom. Because there's a TikTok video that's been floating around from 2020 where he admitted that his wife was the homebody in the relationship. For many years now, Sophie has talked about enjoying her downtime at home. During 2020, she did an interview with Conan O'Brien where she talked about how much she loved staying home, how the entire situation was actually really right up her alley. She said that she was loving it, that she was an introvert, a homebody, and if she could stay home all day, and she would. So it was great for her. She also admitted that out of the two of them, Joe is the real social butterfly. She said that the struggle to lock him down and have him just spend time with her was hard. It was a tough battle. It was like being in prison, but it was great for her. So that kind of contradicts the person that Joe is painting her out to be. Number 9, keeping the receipts. In the latest court documents, Sophie detailed all the places the kids have been staying over the past year. And judging from that list, before they relocated to England, they did not stay in one place for more than like 4 weeks. This also means that Sophie gave birth to their second child and then spent her first year postpartum constantly moving around from one rental home to the next, which sounds terrible. The document has now gone viral on Twitter, and it seems like everybody has their own opinion on it. One person wrote, "This whole thing makes me angry. I can't believe he had the gall to file in Florida without telling her and then lie about it." He absolutely did lie, because she wouldn't have filed it in the UK in the first place if she hadn't known. Keeping those babies away from their home and mom is nasty. So people are picking up on what is happening, and the more that we find out about their marriage, the worse things seem to get. What's really funny about this whole thing is that it just proves Sophie's point about how the family needs stability. All of that moving around sounds horrible, but thankfully she was able to take note of every single place they stayed. Number 8, they already made an arrangement. Sophie Turner was born in the United Kingdom in Northampton. Ever since she made it big in the States, it's been her dream to return to the UK and live there permanently and raise her family. Joe is completely against that idea. From the time that they were together right up until this past week, the idea of moving to another side of the planet with his wife was just not something that Joe wanted to do. Sophie has spoken about the issue several times over the years, but she never really got into specifics. Well, it turns out that while the Jonas Brothers are world famous, Joe is of course more comfortable on his home turf, which is the exact same feeling that Sophie has. He tore down any hope she had of living with him and their child, even though they had already made an agreement that it was going to happen, so it looks like she decided to just do it on her own instead. Number 7, Joe is a gold digger. According to an inside source close to the couple, Joe was beyond excited when he started dating Sophie, and it might be because of her money. Now, according to the source, one of the main reasons that Joe is so smitten with his ex-man wife is because she's able to provide for herself and for him. Apparently, Sophie does not let Joe pay for things most of the time, something that the musician is not used to. When speaking about his wife in interviews, Joe just kind of backed up the gold digger theory, as the first and foremost thing he mentions is just how much he loves her independence. She buys him stuff all the time, so hey, he loves it. While many praised Sophie for her efforts, a lot of people started pointing out the red flag and expressing their discomfort knowing that Joe Jonas didn't pay the bill when he was out with his lady. Maybe that's why they're getting a divorce. She kept all the receipts and he couldn't pay the bill. Number 6, not getting Game of Thrones. Sophie rose to mainstream stardom when she was just 13, playing the role of Sansa Stark on Game of Thrones. HBO found a gem when they casted Sophie, and thanks to her performance and that of her incredible co-stars, the show received 8 seasons and launched her career. One person who did not get that show at all was Joe Jonas. Early in their relationship, Sophie was nervous about losing Joe if they were to spend extended time away from each other. Her concerns were not shared by Joe, as he was pretty oblivious to exactly how popular this series she was in was. Joe has had mixed opinions on the show, revisiting it from time to time, but as he got closer with Sophie, he became more and more uncomfortable watching the show. I personally never watched more than a few episodes of Game of Thrones, but in those few episodes I saw, well, a lot of stuff. Bits and bobs that usually aren't seen on TV. Then there is of course the graphic scenes of lovemaking and, violence, so I can imagine why Joe might not have loved the show. Game of Thrones is Sophie's baby though, so when Joe talks about the show, you can see her visibly disappointed and angry in what he is saying. Man, if you want to roast Game of Thrones, do it online like everybody else does. Number 5, the PDA. Despite crying out to the public to just leave them alone, Sophie and Joe were known for their aggressive PDA. Whether it's getting cozy at an awards show or at a Kings of Leon concert or during a shopping trip, they've done a couple of things together. Speaking of shopping trips, Page 6 reported that in May of 2017 that the couple went into a dressing room together in a Soho boutique. Now, it has since been revealed that most of this interaction was Joe's idea, so it is going to be included on this list. According to the report, the couple entered the change room and a customer noticed both of them in bare feet below the door. Now, while it is definitely creepy that someone was just peeking under doors in Soho, it was clear that Sophie was trying on clothes for Joe. When they exited, they noticed the couple were giggly and touchy-feely. Now, while being close is not a bad thing, it's not against the law, these two have constantly asked the world to ignore them and stop focusing on their love lives. Well, maybe stop changing in public and licking each other on camera. Number 4, Flirty McGurty. When these two first got together, it was believed that Joe had every bit of leverage, and you might be asking why. Well, Sophie was into him for quite some time, but she was well aware that Joe was not exactly known for his commitment skills. When they first met, he was what people call a player, and according to several women, he was seeing them simultaneously and without the other's knowledge. Joe's tone shifted though when he met Sophie in December of 2016. He was becoming a one-woman kind of guy. According to Sophie though, they were intoxicated with each other and started dating exclusively. However, it appears that he was playing the field for so long that he kind of forgot to turn his game off. Joe was always flirting with people at his shows while he was still married to Sophie, and while she was taking care of a baby. While it may have been accidental, the fact that he's not aware of what he was doing is bad. Just bad guy. Number 3, tried to ride her coattails. As Joe's relationship with Sophie progressed, he started showing his true colors. Now, while Sophie has not starred in many projects since becoming a mom, deciding to take time off to focus on herself and her family, Joe spends the majority of his time on a bus with his crew. Apparently, the decision to not be a stay-at-home dad was one he made the moment they got together. Throughout her entire pregnancy, an insider close to Sophie revealed that Joe was trying to get acting gigs based on her recommendations. While this woman was literally growing their spawn, he was like, "So can I be in the next X-Men movie?" Come on, guy, you were on the Disney Channel. You're telling me you can't walk into an office and smile? How do you think Nick Jonas got into Jumanji? It feels like his decision to go on tour was an act of spite. One of the main things Sophie was worried about from day one was a distance due to work, and look what happened. Number 2, going back on his word. One of Sophie's biggest demands in this custody battle is that their 2 children be returned to England. The complaint against Joe calls for the immediate return of children wrongfully removed or wrongfully retained. In fact, Sophie's legal team used the words wrongful retention just to sound fancy. She claims that Joe agreed to declare England their forever home in conversations that took place over Christmas in 2022. And while they were prepping for the year ahead, she said that after they sold their Miami home, they were in the process of buying a home in the English countryside in April, at which point Sophie was busy filming a TV series while Joe had started touring with the Jonas Brothers. They eventually split up in late August, and then the 2 of them met up to discuss the issue of custody and the next steps in co-parenting. At this point, Sophie says she once again brought up their plan to move to England, but Joe no longer agreed to it. In fact, he had a complete change of heart. And since they filed for a divorce in Florida, that basically ensured that the kids could not leave the state while the proceedings were ongoing. So he pretty much stopped any plan she ever had of doing anything. And at number 1, he was dragging her down. One of the main arguments from this whole divorce is who is the partier. At first, Joe was claiming that it was Sophie who was partying too hard for his comfort, but her fans quickly defended that idea and reminded him that of the 2, it was Joe that had more photo evidence against himself. But since getting the divorce paperwork on the go, Sophie has been seen more and more at parties, nightclubs, and the like. Most recently, she's been regularly photographed with her best friend Taylor Swift, a woman who also used to date Joe Jonas. According to Taylor, her time with Joe was quick and forgetful. She didn't seem very happy with this guy, and it seems that Taylor and Sophie may be bonding over their mutual hatred for Joe. Number 10, Russell Brand. This man has been slowly exposing himself to the public over the years. His chaotic energy has just gotten worse and worse as time's gone on. This guy has gone down in history as being the worst host of the Video Music Awards ever, but for now he's going down in history as being an absolutely terrible guy. 4 women have come forward alleging that Russell mistreated them verbally and physically between the years of 2006 and 2014, which was arguably the height of his career. Brand strongly denies the allegations, and in a video that he himself has posted claimed that while he was promiscuous, all relationships were consensual. One of the women who came forward claimed that Russell had started a relationship with her in 2006 when she was still in high school and he was 30. Apparently, they met while Russell bumped into her at a shopping center and proceeded to search/critique her purchases. According to the woman, the relationship was meant to be anonymous, with Russell asking her to straight up lie to her parents. He even wrote her a script to keep things smooth. Another woman alleged similar behavior in 2007, but added that he had a massive temper, becoming physical with her a few times. Several more women have spoken out about their situations with Brand, all of which are eerily similar and show that he has a pattern of some serious mistreatment. He will probably deny these allegations until the day he passes away, but the news has left his career up in smoke. Number 9. Would you mind just scrolling down, please, Chris? Thank you. Number 9, Danny Masterson. The man best known for his role on the sitcom That 70s Show has been convicted of mistreatment charges. Oh look, 2 in a row. 3 women came forward detailing a time when Danny did some truly terrible things that I can't really get into. 3 separate incidences took place between 2001 and 2003, but a verdict was not reached until this year. The first round of investigations actually took place while he was still on That 70s Show, but back in the early 2000s there just wasn't enough physical evidence to take things very far. In 2017, the investigation was reopened and it was reported that he was was once again being investigated by the police. The women spoke about Masterson's misdeeds and were able to scrape together enough hard evidence for this guy to get a conviction. Another woman came forward in 2017, rounding it up to 4 accusers, and it was revealed throughout the proceedings that Netflix had actually tried to dispute these claims of these women as a way to maintain their relationship with Danny. Eventually, he was fired from the ranch, and, well, everything and anything that had his name attached to it. The actor defended himself tooth and nail right up to the final verdict, more than likely in an attempt to stretch things out just as long as he could. In the last year, former co-stars like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis actually wrote character statements supporting Danny and literally claimed him to be a role model at one point. Their careers have also been suffering, but they have yet to have their careers nuked like Danny has. Number 8. James Franco. James Franco exists in this little bubble of public exile for using his powers for evil. The man behind some iconic characters like his portrayal as Tommy Wiseau or his role as Harry in Spider-Man, and so many more, just made this guy seem like he was on this long, successful career path, especially following his multiple collaborations with his longtime friend Seth Rogen, as well as a few more turns in like serious roles like True Story alongside Jonah Hill. Apparently though, James has a problem with keeping his hands to himself, when it comes to his acting students especially. In 2018, 5 female students at a Studio 4 acting school in North Hollywood told the Los Angeles Times that Franco had parlayed his position to exploit them physically. 2 of those women sued Franco, and he was forced to settle outside of court and fork over $2.23 million. At the time, he was writing, acting, and starring in a show for HBO, which he was allowed to stay on and finish while it was being cancelled anyway. Not only did fans call for the cancellation of this series, but the public outcry forced his buddy Seth Rogen to drop his longtime pal, telling the Times of London that the scandal had changed their relationship and they had no plans on collaborating anytime soon. There's a pretty simple lesson here, folks. If you don't want to cancel yourself, just keep your hands to yourself. It's pretty easy. Number 7, Chris D'Elia. For a long time, Chris D'Elia was a very popular stand-up comedian with several stand-up specials under his belt. TV shows, film roles, he was at the top of everyone's list. However, he's now at the top of the do not even think about him list after 10 women came forward with claims of physical misconduct, and 4 of them were underage. Most of the accounts share a pattern. Chris would pester them for videos and photographs in exchange for free tickets to his shows. He would use that leverage to then find these women and become dark clouds in their lives. He'd pick out their clothes, he would impose curfews, and he even forced some of them to get tattoos of his initials. When one woman denied his advances, he actually blackmailed her into filming an apology video that he wrote himself. This guy is sadistic. Chris obviously denied every allegation, but the internet is forever, so messages and screenshots were quickly shared with lawyers and PR teams. Chris's career is gone. In fact, the news broke just a couple months before a movie he had wrapped production on was set to release, so the director Zack Snyder was forced to refilm his scenes with a different actor, costing millions of dollars, but it was well worth it to scrub his final performance from streaming services. Number 6, Louis C.K. There's not much to say about this man. He was once a giant in the world of comedy. He had his own show with his name on it. He was in movies and live shows. This guy was a very busy man, but apparently he was also busy being the creepiest creep to ever live. Hours before his film I Love You Daddy was set to premiere, it was pulled from theaters, and it turns out that Louis was being cancelled and publicly outed as a few things that I'm not allowed to say on the internet, so let's just call him slimy. For many years, Louis would use his status as a boss and a comedian to intimidate and mistreat his female counterparts. He would take women aside and ask them if they'd like to watch him feed his geese, as Bubbles would say. Even when they would say no, he would just whip it out and just do it anyway. Several women recounted him blocking their exit as he did this thing and physically forced them to watch. This man was rightfully fired from every TV show and film ever. His comedy tour was cancelled, his agent dropped him off of a cliff, and he is now the slimiest man in Hollywood. Number 5, Larry the Cable Guy. Larry, whose real name is Daniel Whitney, is known for his so-called redneck humor and get-her-done attitude on stage. He did comedy tours worldwide, and fun fact, he was the first comedian that I ever listened to on an iPod. And I'm talking shuffle, baby. Around 2013, Larry did an interview in which he revealed his real voice. It was already known that he was not from Texas, he was from Pawnee City, Nebraska, but his real voice is just so normal. Now, if you've never heard Larry speak, I'm about to do an impression, and please, this is not to offend anyone, it's just so you can hear his voice. So, if you're gonna get her done, that's right. But he sounded more like, if you're gonna get her done, get her done. in real life. When his real voice was revealed, roughly 60% of his audience turned on him. He was faking a voice that was a real accent for a lot of people. His comedy was relatable to them, but he was just pretending the entire time, and it felt like he had been making fun of them. In case you haven't noticed, he no longer stars in the sequels to Things. Who could forget Tooth Fairy 2? Number 4, Michael Richards. Michael is best known for his character Cosmo Kramer on the legendary sitcom Seinfeld, but nowadays you might know him from his racist tirade at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles. In 2006, Michael was filmed dropping some pretty rough comments in front of a crowd of people who just wanted to hear some jokes. Instead, they heard Cosmo shout the N-word over and over and over again at a man in the crowd. He also made some racist remarks that I'm not going to repeat online or ever. The video went viral, being broadcasted on news networks across the country. Michael apologized for his actions, claiming that he was heckled by someone and that it sent him off. Throughout the tirade, many of the audience members weren't sure if he was trying to be funny or if these were his genuine thoughts, but by the end it was obvious that it was unscripted and uncalled for. Number 3, Roseanne Barr. In the late 80s, Roseanne starred in a sitcom titled after herself, and she starred alongside some Hollywood heavyweights like John Goodman in a series that followed the couple's everyday life as a working-class family. The show aired for 230 episodes and eventually got canceled in the 90s, but the show was eventually revived in 2018 as this same wholesome content just for a new generation. Unfortunately for Roseanne, sitcom producers have Twitter. Her show was quickly re-canceled only a few hours after it was announced that it was coming back because Roseanne posted a tweet about Valerie Jarrett telling the world that she was the product of Planet of the Apes and a certain brotherhood having a baby. It's pretty dark. She later apologized for the tweets, but the damage was done. ABC Entertainment president Channing Dungey said in a statement that Roseanne's Twitter statements are abhorrent, repugnant, and inconsistent with their values. Barr defended her tweets, saying that they were not racist, but in fact a joke. Hey Roseanne, those can be the same thing, doesn't make it any better. Number 2, Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen had one of the most successful daytime talk shows of all time until 2020, when her show became overwhelmed with accusations of a toxic work environment from former employees. They were claiming that Ellen's happy exterior was nothing more than this fake thing that she put on to keep the audience on her team. A bit of proof came when she accused Dakota Johnson of not inviting her to a birthday party, and Dakota told her that she actually did do that and never got a notice from anybody except for her producer that said she did not want to attend. Fans started questioning the awkward moment and the cracks began to grow bigger and bigger. Eventually an article was released containing testimonies from several former employees with just too many stories for it to be fake. Ellen canceled herself by denying every single thing that she was being accused of, and instead of acknowledging her faults and missteps as a boss, she just kinda canceled her show completely out of the blue. She didn't respond to any of the articles or the claims that she herself was a short-tempered tyrant. Instead, she just was like, alright guys, we're wrapping it up today. Her show was canceled amid all the controversy and has been on a hiatus ever since. Oh well, more time for Kelly Clarkson. And at number 1, it's Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle dominated the comedy scene in the 1990s. His stand-up was considered to be the most gut-busting around, and his film roles and stuff like The Nutty Professor and Robin Hood Men in Tights just made him a cult classic comedian. He took a bit of a break from starring in films to focus on his family and his true passion, stand-up comedy, but despite being on stage for over 12 years, he never really learned to follow suit with the times. There were just certain things that became rude to joke about. Many jokes considered to be funny in the 80s have not aged well, and unfortunately it just seems like that's all the material that Dave has. In one of his most recent Netflix specials, he decided it was his time and his stage and he could do whatever he wanted, so what he wanted to do was make fun of the LGBTQ+ community. Yeah, that did not go well. He spewed some pretty trashy jokes. If you're curious how bad it was, they were just rough enough to get his entire fan base to turn on him. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos actually defended the comedian, claiming that he had artistic freedom, even after a group of Netflix employees and transgender advocates staged a virtual walkout. Now, he later apologized and said he handled the situation poorly. Oh, poor Ted, did you accidentally support a bigot? Number 10, the 7-year separation. Kicking off the list is, of course, the cheating rumors and dating scandals that have followed this couple throughout their entire relationship. Since day one, people have been convinced that they're in an open relationship, or maybe that they've been cheating on each other on and off the entire time, but it turns out that those rumors were kinda true. Ahead of the release of her new book, Worthy, Jada sat down with People magazine to share some some inside information. The most revealing was that herself and Will Smith have actually been separated for 7 years now. Despite appearing to be a happy couple on the outside, the truth was they decided to go their separate ways, emotionally speaking, a long time ago. Since 2016, Jada and Will have been living in the same house and appearing on red carpets together, but behind the scenes they actually just don't do anything together. Considering the massive size of Will's house, it's pretty easy to imagine Jada choosing her own section and just like decorating it to her liking. She continued to say that she felt pressured into being with Will in the first place because it was mostly his idea to get together. 2 kids and 1 marriage later, it would appear that Jada finally came to her senses and just decided to separate from Will entirely. Number 9. Dating Chris Rock. Ahead of the release of her new book Worthy, Jada has revealed a ton of information that were once thought to be just rumors. Now, while we've already covered the fact that she's been separated from Will for like 7 years, another fun piece of information was revealed. I don't know if fun's the right word to use, maybe unique. Anyway, it was revealed that before Chris Rock was struck across the face by Will Smith live at the Oscars, Chris had actually asked Jada Pinkett Smith out on a date. Now, I'm sure that when you hear that, you must think, oh, he asked her out before they even met. Nope, that actually took place in 2016 at the height of the first round of separation rumors, which again turned out to just be so true. At the time, Chris either had some inside information or maybe his belief, or he just believes everything he's read online. According to Jada, Chris reached out to see if he could, get her attention. He called and said that he would love to take her out, which she was like, why? He clarified and told Jada that he was under the impression that herself and Will were getting a divorce. Like, right? That's what he just heard. Well, when she revealed that this wasn't the case, Chris was so embarrassed and just started apologizing over and over. Though they eventually moved past the moment, it might explain why Will Smith was so aggressive with Rock at the Oscars. There's no way he's unaware of that situation. Number 8. Divorce. Jada revealed that despite her and Will being separated for 7 years, that getting a legitimate divorce was out of the question. While they haven't been a proper couple for a very long time, Jada has always been adamant that she would never file the paperwork to properly separate from Will for good. Over the years, they have been at each other's side, and even after the secret separation, they were seen together as if nothing had happened. While they presented a united front, conversations later on the matter suggested that the two had actually spoken about it at one point or another. During Will's appearance on Jada's now cancelled show, Red Table Talk, the topic of divorce came up once again. Will said that he'd never get a divorce because it was something that he had already done and he tried to avoid it if possible. Jada laughed and said, yeah, that's not an option. But when she had Toni Braxton on as a guest, she claimed that she simply just wasn't mature enough to get divorced, which made it sound like that she was down to leave Will, but she just couldn't at that time. Well, considering the amount of media attention that this news is getting, something tells me she might be filing that paperwork sooner than we think. Number 7. Interview evidence. When Jada revealed the truth about her separation from Will, she claimed that by the time they reached 2016, they had become exhausted with trying to make things work. The news of their separation was like a mild shock at best, because Super Sleuth fans claimed to have proof that Will and Jada had been separated. The proof was in the interviews. The first clip to be submitted as evidence was Will and Jada's Red Table Talk interaction, in which she admitted to the entanglement with musician August Alsina, but she simultaneously admitted to a brief separation between her and Will. In the conversation, she literally says that herself and Will had basically broken up, but instead of just outright admitting the information right then and there, she decided to hold on to it for a better time. Many Jada fans have commented on the resurfaced clip, saying that Will looks drained, clearly dealing with a ton mentally speaking. Jada is a calculated woman, why reveal all this juicy gossip so early in her life, right? She was probably ready to tell the world what happened as soon as it did, but held on to the information as a way to give her a boost in the future. Is it really a surprise that she's releasing all this information right when she's about to publish a book? Huh? Give them a scoop so they have to buy it and get more information. Good move, but a manipulative one at that. Number 6. That's what she said. As we all know by now, Will Smith doesn't like Chris Rock putting his wife's name in his mouth. After the altercation that took place at the Oscars in 2022, a ton of people were convinced that it was Jada who told Will Smith to do it. Will was laughing moments before taking the stage and doing his thing. According to Jada, she actually had zero part in that altercation and thought the entire thing was a skit right up until she saw Will walking back towards his seat. The fury in this man's eyes could not be faked. She revealed that she actually didn't mind the G.I. Jane joke all that much. Sure, she didn't appreciate it, but according to her, she in no way told Will Smith to go strike her Madagascar co-star. The first thing that she had apparently said to him when he sat down was simply, "Are you okay?" Something in Will snapped. He went up to accept his award for Best Actor and later apologized for his actions. Despite the apology, he was banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years, and so far, he has not spoken to Chris Rock face to face. Speaking of the Oscars, number 5, Oscars confusion. Now that all this information is being leaked into the world by Jada herself, there's been one major question still lingering on everybody's mind. If she hasn't been with Will for over 7 years, why did he feel that it was necessary to defend her and strike Chris Rock at the Oscars? Many fans have flooded social media with questions and concerns surrounding this incident. If you don't remember, in 2022, Chris Rock made fun of Jada being bald and Will smacked him for that. That's it. If he had been attending Chris Rock's stand-up special, who knows what would have happened, but I'm gonna talk about that in a couple minutes. Despite Will claiming that playing the role of King Richard had left him in this odd mental state, it really was no excuse for his outburst, especially if he had not been romantically involved with Jada in years. Main point being made by some is that despite Will and Jada separating, they remained close friends. In that instance, Will was defending his very good friend, which is still no excuse for causing Marty the zebra pain. Man, I love Madagascar. Will has claimed that he tried to reach out to Chris following the Oscars, but that he was told Chris just isn't ready to talk. Either that, or Chris was ready, but he knew he'd fly off the handle the moment that he heard Will's voice. Number 4, Jaden and Willow. Of course, rumors had been flying around for years that Willow and Jaden Smith basically raised themselves. Their upbringing was a little different. Jaden was on track to being an actor after starring in the 2008 remake of Karate Kid alongside Jackie Chan, the greatest man on earth, but later shifted his focus to a more entrepreneurial side of things, developing his own fashion brand, which he's actually been pretty successful in doing. And his sister Willow opted to stick with her creative roots and made quite the name for herself in the hip-hop world. Now, unfortunately, their behavior comes from a place of neglect. During an episode of Red Table Talk, Jaden confronted his parents, calling out their terrible parenting skills. With both being so busy in their careers and now we know separated, there was never anybody home to actually take care of them. Jaden and Willow recount spending most of their childhood with various nannies and teachers, only seeing their parents between projects or if they got dragged along to work with them. It turns out they were well aware of this whole separation thing going on from the very beginning. Will and Jada must have just been waiting until the kids were financially independent and out of the house to finally call it quits. Something that they probably just should have done a lot sooner. Number 3, the roasting of Will and Jada. Chris Rock delivered the first ever live stand-up special on Netflix this year. Chris Rock's Selective Outrage was a title made in reference to Will Smith. His special was filled with a lot of jokes, but he closed out the night with a little roast of Will and Jada. He started by saying that he had nothing to do with the slap and that Will had selective outrage. Chris didn't have any entanglements, so why was Will so mad at him? But he then repeatedly called Will Smith a B-word and then moved on to roast Jada. He said that he was shocked when she attempted to have him removed as the host of the Oscars back in 2016 during the whole Oscars So White controversy, begging the question, how can Jada boycott something that she wasn't even invited to? The roasts were devastating and Chris Rock is most certainly the winner in that battle. Now, this has nothing to do with Will and Jada's marriage. I just figured if you made it this far into the video, you could use a little chuckle. Number 2, Chris and Will were friends. Before the infamous 2022 altercation at the Oscars, Chris Rock and Will Smith had actually been on pretty good speaking terms. Now, they weren't best friends by any means, but they certainly weren't mortal enemies prepared to strike each other down at the mention of one of their wives. They first met on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air back in its heyday when Rock played two characters, an actor named Maurice Perry and his sister Jasmine. They bumped into each other over the years, but Chris eventually starred alongside Jada in an animated series that I've been referencing called Madagascar. Fun fact, I didn't even know that she was in that movie growing up because I did not read the credits. I was too cool for that jazz. Between Madagascar 1 and the Oscars in 2022, things just were neutral. There was no bad juju, but then suddenly at the behest of his wife Jada, he felt it was necessary to stand up and defend her even though they weren't even together. So what's that about? And at number 1, PR stunt. As previously mentioned, it's no surprise that Jada has shared her juicy gossip only days before her new book is set to hit shelves, but many speculate that her entire life is just one big PR stunt. Over the years, she has been in the media for a lot of things, whether it's boycotting the Oscars, getting fired from her own talk show, or just the general nonsense that comes from this lady. She's a force in Hollywood and not a good one. This latest stunt is nothing more than a PR tactic and a way to continue her media presence. She just revealed some of the secrets in her book. When the thing actually comes out, who knows what else there will be in store. You probably will, once we do. Number 10, loves love. Russell's always been a very vocal man when it comes to his love life. Talk shows are just another excuse for him to say his piece in public. In 2008, while appearing on the David Letterman show, Russell made jokes about his escapades, sleeping with several women who believed that he was in fact gay, then suggesting he made multiple women pregnant. He said that because he was so well dressed, people just assumed that he liked other men, claiming that it made women feel very safe around him. He concluded by joking about all of the women that he had impregnated and how the next generation was just gonna be little versions of him, and that sounds terrifying. During that same year, he appeared at the Video Music Awards, and he would not stop roasting the Jonas Brothers about wearing purity rings. On the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson, he discussed his own purity, describing in graphic detail why he just loved to make love, his favorite bits and bobs, all that jazz. He then drew attention to his pant zipper, which was on an angle, and claimed that it was meant to be a way to draw attention to his nether regions. Coming super out of left field, he then discussed his spiritual beliefs, claiming that he loved all and did not deal in hate. This guy is a weirdo, but number 9, that's not all. Russell has a problem keeping his hands to himself, in case you didn't already know that, and in 2012, Russell appeared on an episode of 60 Minutes in Australia. The host of the segment, Liz Hayes, was lost for words when interviewing Russell. During the show, Russell had been driving them both around in a golf cart before crashing into another one without paying attention. As they exited the cart, Russell yelled at her and blamed her for the crash, claiming she had taken her eyes off the road because things were getting too fruity. He walked away, but not before he grabbed her face and planted one just right on her lips. Yeah, Liz was shocked as she turned away from the actor, but Russell grabbed her face again. He then fiddled with her chest and he said, "I can undo your stuff just like that," and then forced her to adjust her undergarments. Speaking after the incident, Liz was clearly uncomfortable with the moment and did not think that it was funny in the slightest. Number 8, Katy Perry. The darkest information being kept secret about Russell Brand was of course from his ex-girlfriend and wife, Katy Perry, a woman who not only knew about these allegations but had actually kept the information secret. When they first met, Russell wanted to find an equal, but once he got that equal, according to Katy, he could no longer handle the equalness. She went on to say that he became very controlling as time went on, and while at first she felt responsible for their split, she discovered the truth. Now the truth was something that she, quote, couldn't necessarily disclose because she keeps it locked in a safe for a rainy day. It sounds like Katy not only knew about all this misconduct in 2013, but actively kept that information to herself. Had she come forward, this entire situation could have been addressed a very long time ago, but the victims were only willing to share their experiences after being hounded by reporters for years. Whether she planned on revealing the information at a later date or not, she denied the people that Russell heard a chance to speak up as soon as possible. Number 7, the general consensus. The general consensus is that this man's not good at first impressions. Most of the accounts being brought forward claim that Russell has been a tyrant since the first day he's met any woman in his life, with each allegation being worse than the last one. Katy Perry's first interaction with Brand was filming for a scene in the 2009 comedy Get Him to the Greek, a spin-off of Forgetting Sarah Marshall featuring his character Aldous Snow and Jonah Hill as a record label employee. Katy made a cameo appearance in a scene that was ultimately cut from the final movie, but the scene saw Katy and Russell's characters locking lips during the opening montage. Katy told Glamour back in 2010 that she was super stoked to film this scene, but it was their second meeting that really should have been Katy's first warning sign. They rediscovered each other when Russell took the stage at the MTV Video Music Awards in 2009. Katy flung a bottle at him and he caught it, and it was love at first sight. After the show, Russell was furious, but when Katy approached him, he claimed that she was fiery and caught his attention. Katy went on to describe their interaction and what Russell attempted to do that very same night. Katy admitted that Russell attempted to force himself on her, but she was successfully able to steer him clear. Russell was furious, but he listened to what she said and he apparently walked away. 4 months later, they were engaged. Katy may not have understood what was happening at the time, but considering the horror stories coming out about Russell these days, she may have saved herself from being the first in a long line of his victims. Number 6. Boy was toxic. The relationship between Russell and Katy Perry was the most toxic celebrity coupling to ever come out of Hollywood in the last 15 years. Katy admitted that while she was married to Russell Brand, the topic of starting a family was a regular conversation, and it honestly made her pretty uncomfortable. For Katy, it was very simple. She did not want to start a family with someone someone who she was pretty confident would use the family as an excuse to control her, but Russell is a wholesome family man who's just ready to settle down, you know, have some kiddos. Katie admitted during an interview with Marie Claire that she was scared of Russell trying to make her a stay-at-home mom, and when these two were a couple, Russell had some popularity in films and TV, but Katy Perry was Katy Perry. She kissed a girl and she liked it. She was hot and cold. She blew up like a firework. Make them go pop, pop, pop. As the relationship went on, the conversation... Oh, the teleprompter glitched. There we go. As the relationship went on, the conversation stayed the same. Not ready till she knows that he's going to be a good dad and let her do her thing. Well, that was certainly not the case, and Katie believes that her unwillingness to bear a child is one of the main causes of Russell's decision to leave her. Whether that's true or not, Katie made the smartest decision of her life when she said no to this man. Clearly a word that he was used to hearing, but apparently he is known to ignore. This guy sucks. Number 5. Brief marriage. Now, marriages do not have an exact timeline. Some last for 50 years, some last for 50 days. For Katie and Russell, their marriage was cut short after only 14 months together. As previously mentioned, Russell was the real one who decided to call it quits seemingly out of the blue. In the years since the divorce, Katie just maintains that Russell was slowly losing interest in her as a partner. According to Katie, Russell was jealous of her fame and would even attempt to berate her into thinking that he was the superior in their relationship. When he decided to call it quits, she blamed herself at first, but soon discovered a secret truth about Russell that apparently she keeps in her back pocket, but I think we all know what that secret truth is. Number 4. The split. The moment Russell decided to split up with Katy Perry was documented and released to the entire world. Breaking up with someone over text is a pretty stupid thing to do, but it's one of the many things you learn as you grow up. Face-to-face kinda needs to happen when it's something serious, like a breakup, or a fight, or a personal issue. While most people learn that by the time they're, in their mid-20s, Russell is almost 50 and he still doesn't seem to get the memo. Katie released a documentary concert called Katy Perry Part of Me, containing a clip that really should have stalled Russell's career the moment that it made air, but oh well. The clip shows Katie lying down in a makeup chair, sobbing, and being told that she can either call it quits or continue with the show. She had just received a text from Russell essentially asking her for a divorce. After a moment, she stands and she's good to go. During an interview in 2013 with Vogue, Katie told the outlet that she could not divulge the specific message that Russell had sent her, but to put it into perspective, she had not heard from him for 2 years following his cryptic text. We have to wonder what words he used and why he decided that a text was the best way to deliver this news. Literally makes no sense. Number 3. The BBC. BBC Channel 4 News has been a staple in the world of British television for years, and by staple, I mean they're responsible for some of the worst celebrity interviews you've ever seen, but we've talked about that in a previous list. Channel 4 is on this list because they have all the Russell secrets wrapped up into a neat little bow. Not only did the outlet literally help launch this man's career, but they have recently been at the forefront of this media storm thanks to a little documentary centered around Russell that clearly outs him as a vile and disgusting man. He's treated so many people so terribly over the years, with justice finally being served and the proof clearly being in the pudding. We will keep you updated on the situation as it goes, but we'll just keep giving you all these fun updates for now and doing breakdown lists. For instance, the next entry, number 2, Aldous Snow. Aldous Snow is a character that Russell played first in the film Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and then reprising the role in a spin-off called Get Him to the Greek with Jonah Hill. The worst thing about this character is just how easy it is for Russell to get into the character. While doing press for Get Him to the Greek, Russell was compared to his on-screen counterpart all of the time, but he would constantly deny any relation. In fact, during an interview with MTV, he told Laramie Legal that he was much more cool, mellow, slow, and not as silly as some people might think. We all know that's not true. Jonah Hill has gone on record saying that filming with Russell was difficult, and while they were both dedicated to the craft, Jonah just took the project a bit more seriously than Russell did. Aldous Snow was set to be a regular character on the big screen, but following the release of Russell's movie Arthur, his acting career as a leading man was basically gone. And at number 1, Banished. The comedian turned actor Russell Brand may be best known for Aldous Snow, or maybe Bedtime Stories with Adam Sandler. That's a great movie too. Or you might know him from his fake musical chops with the real fake band Infant Sorrow. But what many people may not know is just how much he really hates the royal family. He took to YouTube to express his opinions and declared that it was ridiculous to have a queen and having having to be forced to call her Your Majesty. Well, I don't understand what the problem is with that. It's a term of endearment. He dug his hole even deeper when, in his book Revelation, he criticized the Queen for her German heritage, calling her a word that I'm not allowed to say on YouTube, and don't Google it. Needless to say, this was a perfectly logical reason to ban Russell Brand from ever entering the palace gates in his entire life. He's actually one of the few celebrities in the world to receive this honor, so it really should have been the first big red flag when it comes to this dude and his misdeeds. But if there's one thing that Russell is well known for, it's his political and religious rants, which are usually pushed onto people without their knowledge or permission. And by that I mean you probably paid good money to see this man live expecting a big comedic performance, but instead you were met with pretty messed up ideas about religion and the world in general. During one special on Netflix, Russell even compared himself to Jesus a few times and gave several long-winded examples that I really don't want to repeat because just no. This man has some truly dark beliefs, and if you're curious what they are, just wait a year or two when the crime documentary gets released. Russell Brand, a special brand of evil. I'm a genius. Number 10. Do not come. As many may know, in the past couple of weeks, Taylor has been spotted at more and more Chief games, cheering on the Kansas City Chiefs alongside Travis Kelce's mama, who you would think an enthusiastic and energetic crowd member would be a nice addition to the game and welcomed by the players. Well, apparently not Taylor. In the last couple of weeks, a trend has been flooding the internet of people trolling their boyfriends by claiming that Taylor Swift made Travis famous. On top of the annoying amount of content based around that, Taylor has been seen regularly attending the games with a lot of attention being put on her instead of the actual game. You know, cameras zoom in, fans cheer for her instead of the players, but the team seems to be turning this into a motivational thing as they have won every single game that she's attended so far, which is why several football players for the Philadelphia Eagles have started begging Taylor to sit out their game versus the Chiefs. One player, Eagles quarterback Darius Slay, mentioned Taylor during an episode of his podcast, Darius's Big Play, and jokingly told Taylor not to be present when they visited the Chiefs on their home turf. It seems that Taylor is their good luck charm and everybody knows it. Their next game is scheduled for October 9th, going up against the Minnesota Vikings, so fingers crossed she comes to that game and keeps this streak going. Number 9. Mama drama. Throughout a ton of this Travis and Taylor drama, there's been one woman by her side through most of it, and that is Travis's mom, Donna. Donna was recently interviewed by the podcast Got It From My Mama and explained that spending time with Taylor Swift has felt like being in an alternate universe. She was mostly just surprised and excited by all the hype surrounding her son and his possible new relationship with Taylor. Every week the hype gets bigger and bigger, but what Donna doesn't remember is that Taylor has a long history of chilling with her boo's mamas. In the past, she's been seen living it up with Joe Alwyn's mom, who she was with for over 6 years. She spent a ton of time with Joe Jonas's mom, even though their relationship was pretty short, so if anything, Donna should be nervous. The more time this woman spends with you, the more likely it'll be that she breaks your son's heart and then writes a song about it. Chief of My Heart, Kansas City Chameleon, You Suck! Those are just some of the titles, just some ideas for Taylor in case that actually does happen. Number 8, running for president. Now, this entry is a little bit recent and it just popped up in the news cycle. It hasn't been confirmed as really happening yet, but is pretty neat and I thought we should talk about it. The United States may still be a year away from electing a new president. Sure, Joe Biden might get another term and serve a full 8 years, but not if Taylor Swift has anything to say about it. The former director of strategic communications for the White House, Elisa Griffin, was speaking with The View Behind the Table, which is a podcast, when the topic of Taylor Swift and Travis came up. Now, Elisa was pretty excited to talk about the situation with them, but then shared some information on Taylor regarding political stuff. She claimed that if the country wanted to see Donald Trump stay out of the office, that the only smart move may be to throw Taylor's name into the running. As pointed out by several of my co-workers, Swifties make up like over 50% of the country, so the moment that her name appears on the ballot, she'd win in a landslide. People who've never voted in their lives would register just to get her into the office. Now that's when the fun begins. Personally, I have no political views, but the idea of Taylor Swift becoming the president of the United States, for some reason it just doesn't feel that far-fetched. Number 7, restaurateur. Over the last few days, the rumors that Taylor Swift Swift is dating Kansas Chief tight end Travis Kelce have been running rampant, and they were actually spotted attending a Chiefs game, and of course she was spotted attending a few Chiefs games with Travis's mother and leaving the events with Travis. But those rumors were cemented as true and that they probably are a couple when Taylor decided to buy out and clear an entire restaurant for the day, while people were still eating their meals. According to several patrons of an unnamed establishment, they were happily eating their meals when they noticed that the waiters started slowly making their way around the room. When they approached the table, they were informed that their meal was paid for, but they would have to leave right then, right now. The patrons left, and when they returned later on, filled with curiosity, they discovered that it was Taylor Swift who kicked them out. Getting your meal paid for by a stranger sounds cool, but imagine how awkward that scenario is. Hi there, your meal's paid for, now get out please, just leave. Listen, I don't care who you are, if you wanted to have so much privacy, maybe just go home and order Popeyes, Uber Eats, anything else. Number 6, party hardy. Taylor has a ton of A-list buddies that she spends her time with, but one woman who's been making headlines alongside Taylor has been Sophie Turner. Sophie, of course, is going through a very public divorce with one of Taylor's ex-boyfriends, Joe Jonas. The two of them are currently in a pretty public battle for the rights to their kids, and the divorce has brought several things to light that has caused the courts to force Joe and Sophie to do couples counseling while they try to figure out how to properly handle the situation. But instead of attending the classes and trying to keep her family together, it seems like Sophie has been out and about partying with Taylor Swift. Taylor is a terrible influence and has been living it up with Sophie for the past couple of weeks, apparently keeping each other occupied while Joe goes into a downward spiral. Sophie has accused Joe of a lot of stuff during this whole thing, and Taylor has just been standing there telling her that everything's fine and she's doing the right thing. Number 5, the profiter of pain. If there's one thing that Taylor Swift is famous for, it's taking tragedy and turning it into triumph. Her career is basically just built on the backbone of her broken relationships. Men like Harry Styles, Tom Hiddleston, and many more are set to be the inspiration for some honestly catchy songs. You can hate on her all you want, but I'll still be dancing to Shake It Off every time it plays. Just because the songs are good though doesn't always mean that the person who's inspired them is going to enjoy them. While some of her exes like Joe Alwyn have been pretty supportive when it comes to Taylor's writing, other people like Tom Hiddleston have not been so stoked. Taylor is clearly a sour topic for a lot of people. Even the happy-go-lucky Jake Gyllenhaal would rather not talk about his time with Taylor, and honestly we can't blame him. Imagine the worst breakup you've ever gone through in your entire life, and now imagine that it was a top 10 on Spotify. Your soul would be crushed. Number 4, Travis Kelce. This is the most recent entry to Taylor's library of possible partners. Travis Kelce is a football player for the Kansas City Chiefs, and Taylor was spotted attending one of his games a few weeks ago. So there was nothing out of the ordinary there, but then there was more. Taylor got spotted attending the event with his mom, literally sitting arm in arm together the entire night, and they've done that a couple of times now. Taylor was then photographed cheering him on from the sidelines, his mother just as excited as she was, and if that wasn't enough, they were later photographed walking out of the stadium together arm in arm. Now, this dude's been on podcasts talking about how he can't say much and not really specifying if he is or is not with Taylor. Only people hiding something say that, okay? As the weeks go by, we're gonna get more and more proof that this dude is dating Taylor, but for now, it's still just speculation. Number 3, transportation. There was a massive theory going around the internet as Taylor started her Eras tour, and people were wondering how it was possible for her to get around venues when there were crazed fans literally around every single corner. And not to mention, in order to get to the stage of most outdoor venues, you have to be exposed to the public even for the briefest of moments. But there was one common theme at all of her shows. The event staff were always seen pushing this tall janitor's cart back and forth before the show would begin. Now, the first red flag was the people pushing this thing had earbuds in their heads and they were wearing black t-shirts, not exactly janitor clothes, and eventually a fan was able to get the right angle and capture a moment when Taylor stepped out of the cart backstage. Not only did this confirm the rumor, but Taylor's secret vehicle had been outed to the world. Now, I'm not going to be attending the concert because I'm not that rich, but for those of you who are attending, keep an eye out for 2 people in black t-shirts pushing a random coffin around or something down the halls. Number 2, the Master. If you've ever purchased a ticket for something online, then you're probably no stranger to Ticketmaster. It's one of the most popular ticket purchasing programs on the planet. When it was announced in 2022 that Taylor would be doing this whole Eras World Tour thing, the ticket sales were insane. So insane that she single-handedly took that website down. Well, her fans did. So after the pre-sales went up for the Eras Tour, an astonishing 2.5 million Swifties got into their virtual queues and started ordering tickets. 2.5 million people is a ton of online foot traffic. Think about all those people going in at once to buy their tickets. 2.5 million people! Yeah, so the website glitched and millions of fans were unable to find or purchase their tickets. The glitch was eventually fixed and Ticketmaster took away one of the options for general tickets until the majority of the pre-sales had been gone. Now Taylor wasn't directly responsible, but following the news, she said nothing except, oops, I didn't know, that's my bad. Yeah, she didn't care one single bit. She was just glad that her bank account was nice and full. Number 1, she can't swim. Taylor Swift knows how to put on a good show, okay? And this next entry just proves that sentence. During one of her first shows of the Era Tour in Glendale, Arizona, Taylor stood in front of her fans as a small hole opened up in the stage. She jumped in and a masterpiece in LED technology started to play. She jumped in and waves flowed across the stage as a bird's eye view showed her swimming from one end of the stage to the other. Granted, it's definitely not Taylor and it's just a projected image, but that's still neat, you know? That's why I said that she can't swim, because she's not swimming, get it? The sequence ended with a large wave hitting the back of the stage, with Taylor appearing underneath a cloud in a new outfit as the waves vanished. Thankfully, it worked out on stage, as it was reported that during the rehearsals for the show, Taylor actually missed her mark a couple of times and belly flopped into the pool, which would have made for a pretty different show.
Starting this list off at number 10 is Brandy. We have seen celebrities fake relationships in the past as a publicity stunt, but this one was one that just went too far. The singer and actress announced back in 2002 that she had gotten secretly married to a music producer, Robert Smith. She said they had a private wedding and kept it small. The relationship went on to be featured in Diary Presents Brandy Special Delivery, which documented the birth of their daughter. Everything seemed to be genuine and normal, but in 2004 the truth came out and it was revealed that the two of them had split. Brandy went on the Oprah show and revealed that they had never actually been married in the first place and said that they lied. She was 6 months pregnant when she had gotten married, and she only lied about it because she didn't want people to judge her for having a child without being married. She ended up using her Oprah interview to issue a public apology. Is that forgivable? I mean, I don't care. What difference does it make? But I guess in the special, the show she had, it was all about their marriage and like baby, and it's like, you're not even married. Coming up next, number 9 is a sex tape. There are plenty of celebrities we could probably have in this category who have made up an excuse or lie to hide the fact that they have made a sex tape. But one iconic example is the time that Kim Kardashian lied about her tape, which is what people say made her famous. In 2007, there were rumors going around that Kim and her then boyfriend at the time, Ray J, had made a sex tape. Of course, she denied these claims anytime she was asked about it during interviews. But then, a few months down the road, the infamous video got leaked and she issued an apology. But some people also came up with the theory that she lied about the whole thing and that she planned the video to get leaked and that it was all a publicity stunt. So, what do you guys think? This is literally one of the biggest debates ever. If she lied, or was this whole sex tape planned? Maybe she did want to get famous off it. Swiping the number 8 spot is the White Stripes. Jack and Meg White were adored as band members in the famous rock band, but people thought they were siblings because that's what they told everyone. Turns out that is not true at all, and they were actually once married. A marriage license surfaced online revealing that they were married from 1996 to 2000. At first, the two of them denied the license was real and kept the whole sibling story, but then it was revealed to be real. Seems like a strange thing to lie about, in my opinion, right? Apparently the reason they lied is because they didn't think they would be taken seriously as musicians if they were a couple in the band, so they just told people that they were siblings and stuck to it. But how awkward would that have been if someone caught a picture or something of them kissing or holding hands or something? I don't know, I felt like that's so risky. Rolling into number 7 is song lyrics. When it comes to songwriting, it's not uncommon for artists to work with other people to help create the lyrics to their song. But taking credit for it is never the right thing to do, and rumor has it that is what Beyonce did for one of her songs. Back in 2008, the Queen was taking credit for her catchy lyrics in her single Irreplaceable. Now, she did write the background harmonies, but it was later revealed that Ne-Yo had actually written the song. He talked about it during an interview and actually admitted that he regrets regrets giving the song away to her. He said, "One song that I gave away and didn't want to is Beyonce's Irreplaceable. I honestly wrote that song for myself." People were actually shocked to find out it wasn't her behind those words, and it was actually one of his personal experiences. Cruising into number 6, we have Lance Armstrong. The wildly successful athlete was caught in the most sophisticated and successful doping program the sport has ever seen, according to the US Anti-Doping Agency. People were shocked when the news first broke, but he later admitted it during his interview with Oprah that he in fact had been taking substances. But there was much more to it than just him taking them. He was involved in a professional doping program. He was stripped from his cycling titles and dropped by all of his sponsors, including Nike Inc. and Livestrong, and he was also banned from professional cycling races altogether. He ended up reaching a $5 million settlement with the government, but his career has never been the same since. In 2020 though, fans got to learn a lot more about the situation when a documentary called Lance came out, so if you're wanting to learn more on his career, the scandal, everything, go check that out. I've been intrigued. I have not, because I'm busy, but I have been interested. Halfway through our countdown, at number 5 is lying about a song. We have already touched on the subject of artists lying about song lyrics, claiming to be theirs, but this is a little different. Singer Robin Thicke was called out for lying about one of his songs to a point where a plagiarism lawsuit came from it. In 2012, his hit song Blurred Lines was taking over the radio, and he listed himself as co-writer for the lyrics alongside Pharrell. But then, 2 years later, in 2014, a plagiarism lawsuit popped up when it came to light that the track may have been a ripoff of Marvin Gaye's song Got to Give It Up. Robin then denied that he had written the song and actually put the writing status on Pharrell instead and claimed that he was not the co-writer after all. When all was said and done, Marvin Gaye's estate ended up receiving $7.3 million for the song. So that was an expensive lesson to learn about telling the truth, although maybe it wasn't intentional, you know? Like maybe they didn't mean to rip off the song, but it sounded like it. In spot number 4, we have Brian Williams. The journalist, who is the father to actress Allison Williams, repeatedly told a story that claimed while he was on a reporting trip to Iraq in 2003, he was riding in a helicopter that came under fire and had to do an emergency landing. The story was believed every time he told it, until soldiers who were actually in the helicopter he was referring to came forward and told the truth. They revealed that Brian was not actually in the helicopter with them and said that he and his crew had actually arrived on scene about an hour after the helicopter performed its landing, which is obviously a very different story than the one that he was telling people. After being caught in the lie, he immediately apologized and claimed that he must have made a mistake and gotten his memories of the day mixed up. How do you— come on. Oh, I just thought I remembered I was on this plane that went into flames. Like, give me a break, people. Taking over 3rd place is lying about your age. Let's be honest, it is not only a celebrity thing to do. There are times when someone will lie about their age to get into a club, or maybe lie about their age to feel younger than they are or older. But Nelly's reason was a little ridiculous, and fans couldn't believe he would lie about his age just to qualify for an award. There was an annual list going around for Teen People's hottest stars under 25, and it seems like he really wanted to be on it back in 2003. He ended up being nominated as one of the hottest stars under 25, but he was lying to people and to himself because he was actually 28 years old. I don't know how no one caught on to this in the process. Like a quick Google would probably clear that up, but he must have wanted it that bad. Sniping number 2 spot is Rebel Wilson. While I'm sure a lot of people would like to lie about their age, I know I would, you can't really do that when working in the acting industry. In 2015, an Australian magazine called Women's Day published an article that called out Rebel for apparently lying about her age, name, and certain claims about her upbringing. Her initial age was believed to be 29 years old at the time, but the magazine revealed she was actually 35. Also, her birth name is Melanie Elizabeth Bounce, and she apparently did not have the upbringing that she has talked about in interviews. Now, Rebel never admitted to lying. She actually did the opposite. She filed a lawsuit against various publications because many media outlets also claimed that her real age was 35. She never fought against the claims being true or not, but she said that painting her as a liar had affected her career and ability to land roles. In spot number 10 is lying about a crime. Lil' Kim's lie was more serious than other ones on our list. She did the unthinkable and lied to a federal grand jury. Back in 2005, she was sentenced to a year and a day in prison and was fined $50,000 after she lied about a criminal case and got caught. Her intentions were good in the sense that she lied in order to protect her friend who was involved in a 2001 shootout that took place in Manhattan. She was called to testify on behalf of her friend and manager, Damian Butler, and she claimed that she did not see him on the day in question. However, video footage then showed that they were together that day, so she was pretty much busted. She ended up admitting to her lies in her own trial, and that is when she was put behind bars. Up next, number 9 is Jussie Smollett. His big lie was one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood in 2019, and it is still ongoing. Back in January of 2019, news articles started flooding with headlines that Jussie was involved in a hate crime after being attacked by 2 men. The reports claim that he was attacked with a rope around his neck and that they poured chemicals on him while yelling homophobic slurs. The 2 suspects were arrested, but in court they revealed that it was all set up by Jussie and showed a check that he had paid them to stage the entire thing. On February 21st, he was arrested on suspicion of filing a false police report and was charged with 6 counts of lying to police, all of which he pleaded not guilty to. But prosecutors ended up dropping all the charges. However, the Chicago police argued that he got away with it because of his celebrity status, so an investigation was opened and he is now set to head to trial. As of right now, at the time of this recording, reports say his lawyers have been given an additional 2 weeks to prepare their arguments. The tea. Moving on to number 7, we have Kim Kardashian. She has been called out on numerous occasions for photoshopping her pictures, but it seems she took things a little too far in her latest Skims campaign. She released her ad for her shapewear brand Skims, and Kim can be seen drawing a finger over her hips and down into the dip of her waist. But as her finger trails down, it distorts and squiggles across the curve of her body. Immediately, people started calling her out, saying that there was a huge Photoshop fail and that it was very obvious, and questioned how she's selling a shapewear brand if she's going to sell it by photoshopping her body. Kim personally avoided the whole scandal like the plague, but her team removed the ad campaign and released a statement saying it was, I quote, an error as a result of the video losing its quality during the uploading process. No one bought that excuse, which was a straight up lie, because I work in film and I've had videos edited and I've edited videos and I've exported them, and that does not happen, even in the quality of the processing. Come on now. It didn't glitch anywhere else, just when she did it on her waist, y'all. Moving on to number 6 is lying about an injury. Maybe there's been a time in your life that you faked an injury to get out of something, or you made one seem just more dramatic than it really is. Ed Sheeran did this, but we did not find out about it until later on. Back in 2017, he was making headlines after reports said that he accidentally cut his face with a sword during a party. People took it very seriously because they didn't have any reason not to. But then a few months later, the story was confirmed to be a total hoax. During an interview with Shortlist, James Blunt dished out the truth and said, Ed was drunk, messing around, and he cut himself. We made a fancy story up, people fell for it. It was very embarrassing. Embarrassing for Ed because he was drunk and did that, or embarrassing for us because we actually believe that he cut his face with a sword. I believed it. But I'm also an idiot. Halfway through our countdown at number 5, we have Kylie Jenner. Back in 2017, people were going crazy online about the rumors that Kylie was pregnant. Fans started speculating online and doing a deep dive on all her posts trying to prove that she was pregnant. Even paparazzi were doing all they could to get a photo that proved it, but she and her family kept denying it in all of their interviews. After she finally revealed the truth to the world, she explained that she lied about it because this was the one thing she wanted to not share with the world. Even her producers who filmed Keeping Up with the Kardashians with her said she hid it from them during filming her Life of Kylie season. But Kylie recently announced she is pregnant with her second child, and she is sharing this pregnancy with the world this time. You can't hide anything from fans. Or paparazzi. They always find out. Up next, number 4 is lying about cosmetic procedures. This one is probably the most common one on our list. Oftentimes, celebrities will hide the fact they've had any kind of work done and claim their features are natural. Like Kylie Jenner, for example. Despite being famous for her Kylie lip kits, there was a time when she was denying having lip fillers done, even though people could see very well that they were done. For years, people were calling her out for having noticeably larger lips, but she always said she was just drawing them bigger with lip liner. Then, in May 2015, the truth was revealed by the girl herself during an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. During one scene, she said, "I have temporary lip fillers. It's just an insecurity of mine and it's what I wanted to do. I want to admit to the lips, but people are so quick to judge me on everything, so I might have tiptoed around the truth, but I didn't lie." No, that's a lie. That's still very much a lie when you're denying that you had them done. Earning our number 1 place is Martha Stewart. I'm sure we were all equally as shocked when news broke in December 2001 that she was allegedly involved in an insider trading scandal. Insider trading is where an individual buys or sells stocks that they have in a company using information that is not available to the public. That is what Google told me anyways. Don't quote me. An investigation was launched after she had denied being involved in anything, but it turns out that she was lying. She repeatedly denied doing any wrongdoing, claiming that she had an agreement with her broker to sell the shares if they went below a certain price, but that was proved to not be true. Martha ended up getting charged with security fraud, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. She was sentenced to 5 months in jail and 5 months of house arrest after that, and 2 years probation, and later had to pay $195,000 to settle a civil case with the Security and Exchange Commission.